Hey everybody, welcome back to The Varied Life. Yes, I'm Steve, the retired hobby tech guy, and we're doing more and more with laser engraving. And this time I'm jumped off into dog tag engraving, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, besides doing glass, so I ended up doing some glass, as you can see there. Painted it with black acrylic, and then of course, we got the size like that on the back. Came out really nice. I've done some engraving on metals, coated metals. I engraved my knife. Did a number of basswood engravings and slate coasters. I've done a lot of those. And so now I saw somebody do some 3D dog tag engraving that looked wicked, wicked. I mean, just incredible. So what I wanted to do is kind of go over and show you what that was supposed to look like. And I thought, wow, that's got to be impressive. And the piece was impressive. I was like, you got to have like a multi-thousand-dollar machine to be able to get that type of engraving. And the first person I saw with this type of engraving on a dog tag, actually the file came from an Etsy store, and it ends up, it was like, I asked the guy, well, what kind of laser you got? Because I'm thinking, six, seven, $8,000, fiber laser or something crazy like that. He goes, no, it's a 5 watt laser, and I'm like, I've got a 5 watt laser. And then I tracked down the picture, and it was for sale. I think it was $3 on Etsy. And I was like, okay, we're going to get this in. And if you watch the other videos, there was some recommendations for settings in it was like some crazy settings. And I used those recommended settings for my little gig using Lightburn on my K10 from Wainlux. And yeah, I wasn't getting jack. So obviously, settings are not the same for all machines. What are the odds of that happening? Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? If only that was the case, then life would be good. But it's not, and so that led me down the path of I have to do a series of tests. And then something strange happened. So we're going to go over some of these things, and I want you to take a look. Matter of fact, let me see if I've got... let me show you, and I'll bring up the picture of the original photo, which is insane because bam, there is right there. Can you imagine that being engraved on a dog tag? That is crazy. That would be wild. So, but yeah, that is the image right there. And like I said, I found it on Etsy, or the gentleman found it on Etsy, and then he shared it when he printed it out. And then everybody's asking, where'd you get that? And then, so yeah, it was pretty easy to find. But that is a high-speed, low-drag 3D. I mean, that's on a flat surface. That isn't like digging into the metal and creating depth and so on and so forth. That is it's a flat dog tag. It's like this, except it's got that. And so that was highly impressive to me. And, I look at that and it's just like, wow, that is incredible. So with my little $200, 5 watt laser that's mostly made of plastic and really rinky dinky, I was like, is there a way that I'm going to be able to print this out? I had my doubts, seriously. But when the guy who was sharing what he had printed had put out and said, yeah, I got a 5 watt laser, that's what I ended up using. And I'm like, holy crow, this might be possible. So what I ended up doing is going through, and we'll kind of get through there. And the very first thing that I ended up doing is having to do a test piece. So there's one of the blanks that I ended up having, and you have to do your test pieces. And with this, you can't really tell because the recommendations that I got from my laser company ends up saying that it was supposed to be, coated metal, speed 1000, power 100. and interval of 0.05. So I kind of put the 1000 for speed and did a range between 800 and 1100, and then power 80 to 100. Really, I couldn't tell much of a difference, except in real life, it is a real minor difference between what you end up having there. And so, even cleaning off the residue on there and looking at it, it's really hard to see the differences. But basically, what you end up with is an engraving of 1000 at power of 100. So that's what we ended up settling with in regards to just a regular engraving. Now, to put this into perspective, how big this dog tag is approximately, it's like 1 3/4 inches by 1 1/4. So that's kind of a small little deal that we got here. And I was able to get the material test done on that and put onto the dog tag. So that got me started into the ballpark. So I could do text, I could do simple clip art, the black and white stuff, and engrave it onto this coated metal for the dog tag, and it ends up I end up having it there. Again, it worked out really well. But then when I started doing some of the testing, it took I did a live stream video, and it took like an hour because I kept getting really bad results. So let me see if I can end up, there was a bad result there, and that was one of the better bad results. So there was that. Let's see. This one was a little better, and so it was like, yeah, it's clear. And I even tried another image. Where's another image of something like that? And again, it's just so faint. And here's another one. Ended up being real faint. Trying to dial it in, but obviously it wasn't working well. So through some trial and error, I ended up finally getting the piece in there. So yeah, through a series of tests, and that's what we end up having here, what I was able to do was to get an image like that. Is that hot or what? And so I have a fair number of dog tags here of doing tests and things like that, but it came out really well. And of course, there's me and the wife, and she's awesome. But through this, let's take a look at this one here. This is kind of the big one here because I had to do a series of tests to find out, which one is going to be, worth it, and to find the settings that we need to get. And let's see if we can see everything. I think we can. Okay. Yep. Yeah, we can. So with that, this is a number of different settings. And the first one that I ended up doing is after I kind of got it dialed in, I did one at 30% minimum power, but it came out a little different. And I couldn't figure out why. And then I was able to print out 2 of them. And then after that, I wasn't able to get that result again. So this is part of the journey of where I said, you know what, I'm just going to pay attention. I'm going to double and triple check all of my settings, and we're going to run through the gamut. And so I started off at 25% because 30% was working. And I think what it was actually the metal itself, and the coating on there was different than the subsequent dog tags that I've run into. So that's the only thing I can imagine, and maybe some user error. But I printed out enough of them to where it's like, yeah, something's not right here. So over here on this side here, we started out with a minimum power of 25% with a max power of 50. We did a DPI of 363, which is a line interval of 0.07 using the grayscale. And so when that popped in, I shut down everything, restarted it, light burn, the laser, the whole 9 yards, and I ran all this stuff brand new. Then I ran another one at 20%, so you can see that the darkness is coming in here a lot better than that one there. That's just really too light. And you see here on the hole of where the hole is on the dog tag, it just doesn't match up with the picture, unfortunately. And that's not due to me. That's because of the graphic. So I really wish they had made the graphic so there was no dog tag hole, because regardless, you're going to have a hole anyway. So when you make a graphic with a hole, the picture of the hole, depending on the dog tag that you get, it most likely won't line up. And I've seen some other people, since I've got onto this dog tag metal engraving 3D trip, some other people have complained about this as well. So I'm probably going to contact the guy whom I got this file from and say, hey, is it possible to make it without the hole? Because really, whatever dog tag you use, the hole is going to be there regardless. So you don't need to put a hole on there. So then we went, we did the 20%, then we did the 15%, which we're starting to get a little bit darker shadows in the helmet area. And then we get to the 10%, which is a really big jump in the clarity and the darkness and the shadows and things like that. And then jumping down to 5%, which, like I said, in that the one test piece that I ended up doing, I'm not sure why I was getting the results I did using that 30%. And again, the only thing that I could imagine was that it was a different type of metal, a different type of coating. Here is one where half of the item, half of the picture is 25% minimum power, and the other one is 30. So yeah, that was kind of the last one that I ended up getting. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm kind of dialed in, and I made a video on that. And then when I went to print out some more, saved all my settings, recorded them, put them in my material library and Lightburn and everything, and had it written down because that's the way I am. I'm kind of old. And so when I went back and I printed new ones, it just didn't work. So decided to redo everything, and you can see at the 10%, it turned out pretty good. And then I was like, well, let's run two more. We'll do 5% and a 2.5 just to see what happens. And there's minor differences between the 5 and the 10%, but you can really kind of notice in the shadow of the feet, of the boot and the toe, when you get down in these areas here, it's not complete, a little bit missing, and we've got a little bit more shadow action here. And then on the 2.5%, we get some more shading, but it seems like a little bit overpowered. So we're starting to lose some things, and I think the 5% minimum power that's what I'm picking so far. So that's what we are running with at this time. So ended up doing that, and we can actually take a closer look at some of these. So there was the 2.5%. Let's start off with the worst one. We can see the 25%. We definitely have a lot of lines in here. And so that's just kind of like, and when you look at it in person, it's not really that bad, because it's like, it's 25%. And so you rarely notice the lines on there. But when you take the picture, this is where these lines come into play, these horizontal lines. But in person, you don't really get it. What you end up getting is just something that is, and I apologize for the light, but you don't really get that, the lines, but for some reason it comes in when you take the picture with my iPhone. So, but what we end up with is, if we continue on, and there is the 20%, we still got some line action there. And then if we go to the 15%, You still get the line action, but we're getting some better results. And then there's the 10. And then the 5%, which is pretty much what I'm going to stick with. And then the 2.5%. So, but for some reason these lines come up. But when you actually look at the dog tag themselves, like pretty much the one that I'm going to be sticking with is going to be the 5%. And I don't know, maybe the dog tag needs to get cleaned a little bit. I don't know, better. But that wouldn't account for all those horizontal lines. But let's see if I wipe it off and see what we end up getting here. Let's see if we can do this little trick here. Let's go back to the main screen and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So you can end up seeing, and it's not, that's probably it right there. That's probably the best you're going to get with a little reflection off of there, so I apologize for that. But you don't see those horizontal lines like you do in the picture. I mean, you can barely make something out, but it's nothing that you would look at in person and say, yeah, what are all these lines going horizontal? So yeah, that's kind of interesting on how all of these came out. But yeah, ended up we did the series and those came and worked out really well. So yeah, a lot of fun stuff with doing the laser engraving. Of course, doing the engraving of like letters and like simple clip art graphics is really easy because you just set it for 1,000. You know, you set the power at 100% and boom, you lock it in, you're good to go. You set it on threshold and that's it. It's a done deal. But doing these 3D dog tags, that's where the rub comes in. And again, this is a specialized, that's a specialized dog tag, and the graphics on that, they actually did a depth map on that. And I've been looking online on how to do depth maps and things like that. And I guess you need some kind of high-speed program to do that. There are some free programs online like ImageR, and there's a couple others, but it's kind of like you only get a few certain numbers that you can do a day, and then you have to pay the subscription plan bullshit. So I'm not really a fan of those things. But definitely the image quality comes into play, and then based on how that was made, the quality of the algorithm to do the depth map. And matter of fact, what I'll end up showing you is the file, the download file on that depth map and what it looks like. So for this image here, this is the actual depth map. So yeah, this is the original photograph over here, and then the depth map one that is put into Lightburn, where you have a minimum power of 5% up to 100 max, set at grayscale, set at 0.07 for line intervals, 363 DPI, set at grayscale. That's the image that you end up using. And through that depth mapped image, we're able to get the results that we got that were, down here. So yeah, and we're definitely going to go with the 5% one there. So yeah, I was pretty impressed with that, but that is the file. You get the original file here, and then you get the prepared file, which is this one over here. And then what I ended up doing, because I thought, well, surely I can do something with this. And I had let me see if I can find it. I had a graphic where is it? That was the past 7 days. I don't think that was it. But I ended up doing an AI generated dog tag. And it's got to be close on here. Seriously? Really? Where is it? I think I'm getting close. No, maybe not. Oh, now I'm getting close. Hold on. Ah, there it is. Okay. So that is the image that I started off with. So in other words, I got on to Bing Image Create and I created or typed in what I wanted, and that was a result that I got was this guy here. So I took that image and then through an online depth map, what I was able to get and for that to produce was this here. And so we'll bring this down. And so that was the item. We got too much stuff on the screen. So yeah, that's what we ended up getting there. And then trying to print that out, yeah, just didn't come out as well. And then I did another one where, which one was it? I ended up doing another one. Oh, this was the other one I did. So I kind of canned that one. And then I came to, is it that one? Or is it the chain? I think it's this one here. So this was the other graphic that I ended up making, kind of like a, you know, Punisher-esque type of dog tag in AI. And what I ended up doing is putting that into imageart.com, and there was, it is a huge file because I didn't resize it properly. But you can see that was the result from imageart.com from this one over here to this one here, and then engrave that. It's got some depth to it. It's almost similar to the depth map, but you don't quite get the full meal deal on this. And I want to show you how this ended up. And again, this was just pulling that image off. And yeah, we kind of ended up with that. And that's not bad. You know, that's just kind of playing around today, and it's not as good as the one that I got from Etsy on the original 3D one that I got. But this is a flat image that I, you know, ended up putting into imageart.com. And so this isn't even depth mapped. But yeah, it'd be interesting to, I got to try to find some, I don't know, websites or something that are free that will do a depth map kind of similar to the results that we got there with the one that we bought off of Etsy. So yeah, just kind of an interesting little thing here with the dog tags and making some cool stuff. It's definitely opening up my eyes in regards to, you know, what you can do with the laser engraver. And, you know, making a custom dog tag, doing custom engraving on the back and things like that is just really, really cool. So yeah, looking forward to getting a better laser. Not that I need a better laser, you know, because I got some good results with, like I said, we got some good results with the little 5-watt laser that we got there. And you can see there we got real good results on that at the 5%, you know, for minimum power. So yeah, it just, it's kind of a fun hobby. I like it. I enjoy it. So anyway, that's what we got going on. We'll get rid of all this stuff. And for those of you who have the Wainlux K10 5-watt laser system, those were the settings. Matter of fact, we'll take a look-see in regards to this over here. And let's bring in me. I'll put me right there. And then we'll drag this out a little bit. Kind of show you what we're talking about. So on this here, my laser system, the engraving area is 80 millimeters by 80 millimeters. Though, so for you out there who don't deal with metric, and I'm just dipping my toe into the metric world as I'm retired in Korea, that's like 3.14 inches by 3.14 inches. So that is really small. We're talking, yeah. So what I ended up doing here is creating, this is my engraving area on my machine. And so what I ended up doing is taking the picture of the engraving And what I ended up doing was making a template. So I put in a piece of basswood. So I cut this basswood, I put it in there, and it engraved the Evergreen Laser Files template. That's where this came from. And then with the helmet, the rifle, and the boots dog tag, and the power range is minimum power 5, all of the settings and all that stuff. And then that's just front left, front right as where I put that in. So, and that little star on the on that right there, that goes to the wedge where I just make sure that I push that into the corner so that way I can lay my dog tags into that. Matter of fact, let me show you. Because basically what we ended up doing is making a little jig. And this little jig, let's see if we can go back. Basically what we ended up doing is making this jig and getting the size of the dog tags and putting that size in there and then cutting it out. And of course I made a little, on this side here, you know, a little finger thing to pull the dog tags out, which worked really well. And so now whenever I want to do a dog tag, all I have to do is bring in the dog tag and I toggle all of this stuff off. So if you go over here to the top right, you can see that this is all the text. And so for output, I'm just gonna click that off. And so it mutes or kind of, you know, it's not as bright as it is, but that's not going to be engraved every single time I do it. So the same thing on, that's an image, that's the line, which is where the dog tag would go. And of course, I'm not going to do that as well. And the last thing I'm left with is just the image and a couple of images. So basically what I end up doing, and let's bring this into frame. So I bring this image into this saved file, and then what I'll end up doing is I can resize it and I try to fit it in there. And so basically what I'll end up doing is changing this order. So I'll take this line, this red line, and I'll bring it all the way to the front. And so when I'm zoomed in, what you can end up seeing is this line right here. So boom, I click that on and I'm able to see it. And then what I'm able to do is move this so it's in the perfect position. And that's where, kind of like that right there, and boom, I'm good to go. So yeah, it's a great way to do a template. Everything falls into place. I could do a couple of dog tags at one time. And so what I'll end up doing is just turning off that red line, making sure that the image is selected and we're good to go, and double check to make sure that all the settings are good. And again, speed of 1,000, max power is 100, minimum power is 5%, 0.07 for line interval, 363 for DPI, and it is set to grayscale. So yeah, and I've got that saved into my material library. So whenever I bring in a new dog tag or engraving of this same caliber that I need these settings, I can assign that from my material library, put it in there, do a quick little preview, and boom, 21 minutes and 45 seconds later, the dog tag is done. So not as fast as some of the high-speed the high-speed lasers and engravers that they have out there, but it turned out I'm really pleased with the results that I ended up getting. So anyway, that's what we got, and those settings are particular for my laser system. Other people that have like X-Tool or, you know, some IR lasers or whatever, their settings are going to be different because their power settings are different and they're not all standardized to be the exact same. So when I see people, and been there, done that, what were the settings? It doesn't really matter because you still need to do your material tests. So it's been a great learning experience as far as, trying to wrap my head around the program for Lightburn, trying to wrap around the laser engraver, the machine itself, and then understanding all of the variables that come into play for speed and power and this and that and so forth. And you have to clean the lens on your laser. I ran into that as well. I was wondering why some of my wood engravings were not as dark as they once were. Well, it's because they got all clogged up with particulates, and so I had to clean the lens, and next thing you know, boom, laser's back and kicking ass and taking names. So that's what we got going on. Anyway, kind of enjoying it. It's kind of fun. I'm really looking forward to getting a better laser, which I don't know. We'll see how that goes. I've got some nickels and dimes that I've scoured from the couch and put them in a jar, and we're slowly collecting those things. But yeah, and I'm holding off, to be honest, because there's a couple of companies that are supposed to be coming out, and I can't say who they are. They're supposed to be coming out with a new laser engraver pretty darn soon, like January, February this next year. It's already almost the end of November. So it's right around the corner. But then there's also a company that I'm looking at Acmer, ACMER, that they have a pretty nice system, and it's not as expensive as X-Tool. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles, but it is pretty impressive as well. And so it's got a camera, lining things up. You can do it. Just kind of impressive. So yeah, I'm tempted to get that because they got a big sale going on. I think it's like $500 or $600 off, something like that. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But I know if I get that, and then that new laser system comes out from the one company that I'm specifically looking at, I don't know. I don't want to shoot myself in the foot. I don't want to buy something now and then regret it because a better system came out later. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Maybe it ends up that a company will have pity on me and say, hey, would you do a review of our system? And that would be awesome. And then I could have the best of both worlds. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, with that being said, yeah, 3D metal engraved dog tags are the bomb. And like I said, it is incredible on the results that we ended up getting. And I'll just kind of throw up this one there that we ended up with. Man, that's big. And there that is. So yeah, that ended up just being hot. And that's on a flat dog tag. Imagine that. So like I said, here it is at that 2.5%, and just kind of, or 5%, and just amazing the detail is on that. Of course, I have some light on there reflecting, but it is an incredible job. So with that, I'm going to close out this video. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you're into hobbies. I also have some videos in resin printing, painting miniatures, Warhammer type stuff. So I've got that. I do some commentaries on health and fitness. I go to the gym every once in a while. And then, of course, living in Korea, I've got some videos of how our journey has went from selling everything in the United States, moving to Korea, and doing what I'm doing now. So if you're interested in that, take a look at that. We do have a link in the description box down below if you want to buy me a coffee. And these are the awesome people who have bought me coffee so far. So much respect to them. Because they're awesome, and yeah, it's just incredible. And I've met so many good people. A lot of these people are the people that came to Korea looking to retire. I had a couple of people that, hobby stuff, and then there's some folks that ended up sending me money for via PayPal from way, way long ago, who've been following me since the early days on YouTube, and it's just kind of amazing. So any money that comes from the Buy Me Coffee thing is going towards getting a new laser and making more videos and, buying materials and doing all kinds of tests to have fun and share that with people here and abroad through the interwebs. So, but at minimum, like and subscribe. That would that would be awesome. So with that being said, I'll let y'all go, and we will see you on the next video. Peace. Good stuff.